This mood board is looking awesome with all these different mechs I've painted. Today, going to brush up on some of these retro vibes. Why do I say retro? Well, just check this out. Retro has been in for a while. This is just a small sample of retro. Burger King, Pepsi, M&M's all have gone back to retro logos and the kind of the feel. Have you been to Burger King recently? Everything feels retro. And this summer, Jaws had its 50th anniversary and it blew up this summer in the box office. People are loving kind of this retro feel. So why not look at some retro mechs? I was looking at some of the old mercenary pages and just looking over some of these different retro mechs, and I landed on one which I thought had the retro feel. And granted, this camo has that kind of 90s BattleTech retro feel. So let's dive in, paint this retro mech, and check it out. Okay, I'm starting out with Monocolor Dark Red and just putting the base coat on. And again, it's really wise to keep this paint thin and doing it 2 layers and just keep the brush moving. Now, if we're gonna have a moment to share about these guys and their lore, they have roots to the planet Mars. And not only that, they are cool and they look red like Mars. I don't know. But now after putting the base coat, I'm moving to the sponge, and I started with the vermilion red mixed with dark red and just basing up, and I'm trying to not leave as much shadows as I've done in the past, just because I want to kind of go for the retro bright feel, but it's kind of more challenging using the sponge for this. Now I'm stepping up the brightness just a little bit more and using the dark vermilion and trying to get brighter. And in this case, I'm not being as careful with those gradients. I'm just trying to go for a bright color. And this is more of a speed paint rather than doing a wash on the recesses. In the final highlight, I wanted to do this because I felt like it wasn't getting bright enough, and I actually don't own any more reds. So I added some orange Kador highlight to that red just to bring up the red just a little bit more, but looking back, I really probably need to buy more reds. So looking at the camo, it has these kind of like swiggly shapes, and I'm a person that I need a reference. So I put this SVG blobs on the side on my computer screen, and as I was making these shapes for the camo, I was just referencing those blobs and I was doing them over and over and over again. So it was about, I think I did 6 of them. So in this case, the gray that I'm using is watered down decently, and I'm just copying those. And it is very helpful when you have a reference if you're kind of scared to just start making shapes. I am consistently using that, so I would suggest looking at a reference as you're doing this. Now I will say, doing these shapes on the mech, there really isn't any rhyme or reason where I'm putting them. I'm just kind of placing them in areas that I feel would look interesting and overlapping on different panels. And I'm consistently using that one reference image that I have just to kind of copy, in a way, the way it looks and copying kind of the spacing of them. And I guess this is a good time to share one more thing about this Merc group, is the fact that they stole 3 clan Omni mechs from Comstar. pretty interesting, and apparently that's their pride and joy. I don't know which Omni-Mechs they are, but they are Omni-Mechs stolen. Next, just highlighting that gray, I mixed off-white with the medium sea gray and just picking out some of the highlights just to kind of make those gray sections that are on the panels stick out just a little bit. And I actually don't see this on the reference, but I figured it just looked a little bit nicer to make those camo areas pop a bit. Now the dots. I'm just using off-white here, and I'm just being very careful with the areas I'm placing these dots. And I don't really know where I'm placing them, but I'm just trying to make it look random and sporadic. And that's kind of what I see in some of the retro mech pictures. So just make it sporadic and be clean and precise as much as possible and have fun. I see it in some of the other retro camos that they do a black with the white on top, but in this case, in the reference image I have, it was just white. But I did in fact see a few images online for red retro camo that had the black with the white on top, which is also pretty retro and pretty cool. Next, going to start highlighting some of the red, and I'm mixing the dark vermilion red again with that Cador orange highlight. And in this case, just picking up as much of the edges that I can because I really want it to be bright, but I also don't see a lot of edge highlighting in some of those retro style BattleTech miniatures, but I want to edge highlight. Then I added some Heartfire yellow with the vermilion red, trying to build it up just a little bit more on the very top edges. And finally, I add just a hint of Heartfire, and I think it looks okay, but it's just kind of making that little bit of more pop to the edges and the corners of the classic retro BattleTech miniature. I did say I was going to do non-metallic metal this time. I'm not doing it. Just going iron hand steel again and just trying to find all those metal areas on this griffin. And can I be honest right now? This griffin looks like a dude in a scuba suit. It looks interesting. I had to look online and I don't know if that's the gun. Some of the cases, he's holding a gun outside. I have no idea. Can someone please let me know? now washing all those metals with Nolan oil. And yeah, that's a scuba suit. He is wearing a scuba breather. He is a scuba retro battle mech. I'm telling you. Now for the lens, I'm doing a little bit different of a color than I would because I usually would want to go for a darker color, but in the reference pictures, I'm seeing it as this bright blue. So I'm starting with the medium blue from Model Color, and then I'll start building up from that. Now I'm adding the medium blue with half and half with turquoise also, and building up those gradient layers to try to make that shine on the cockpit stand out. And this Griffin has a big glass cockpit. Then I am just going straight with the turquoise to, again, try to make that a little bit brighter as much as possible. And finally using Green Stuff World Mint Twister and picking out the edges from the side and the bottom of the cockpit. And I think it came out too bright, so after I did it, I cleaned it up with a few glazes because it was way too bright. And the final touch is the Model Color Off-White and that little dot on the top of the cockpit. And I think after doing this, I would have done this kind of streaks for glare, but it's too late. And since this is a retro style Mini, I dry brushed the metal on top because I thought it was very interesting to do the retro style metal. And the final touches, just using Off-White and adding the 97, which was on my reference picture. I don't know what that means, but it's his significant number for this mech. And finally, after finishing this, matte varnishing, and here is the final result of my retro Griffin old school mech with an old school camo. And that's it for the retro style mech. It's a weird mech. It looks like a scuba dude, but I'm happy with it, how it turned out. Very different than how I usually paint, but it's cool. More things to come. Got some more things up in the brain that's gonna be coming up for painting. Hope to see you guys next time, and please keep chatting with me in the comment section. I really enjoy it, and we'll see you guys later. And thank you so much again for watching.